Hey everyone, it's Canada's Drag Race, Season 1, Episode 6, Star 69, and my ring light is slowly, anyway, it shouldn't be a problem. So before I watched this, I had gotten a text message from a friend, and I had read online all about the judging, and so I was really braced for some huge buffoonery, to quote Alyssa Edwards. So for me, in general, this judging is about on par with what we've seen for the season. Before I get into it too far, I'm going to say that I've been seeing a lot of tweets from drag queens who are contestants in the show that basically say, screw the fans, you should just sit down and shut up. Now, when I dig in more, they clarify what they're talking about are the fans who send death threats, rape threats, you know, physical violence, you're a terrible person. Okay. So I have two thoughts. One, I totally agree that there's no need for critiques of the show to get personal. There's no reason for death threats, ever. I mean, death threats are like, I'm holding a gun to your neck, or a knife to your neck, and you're saying, this is terrible, you should die. Okay, so there's no need for that on a reality show. There's no need for that on, you know, even if they're rude, you know, appropriate force, all that. But I wish the queens were a little bit more like, I appreciate the fans who are supportive, who give thoughtful critiques, but what I'm seeing is a lot of like, you should just shut up. And that's not appropriate. It is not healthy for the show. Critique is a natural part. I mean, I'm a writer. I get reviews. I don't always get reviews I like, but I respect the readers' rights to have their own opinion on my work, and that's not my business. So if you remember RuPaul always saying, what you think of me is none of my business, it's that same kind of thing. Like, you need to have a healthy distance, and if you are a queen on Canada's Drag Race who is watching this, I doubt you are because I get so little views. You are not watching my channel. But if you are, just realize that maybe this isn't the space for you, in the sense that as a creator, you need to protect yourself from outside opinions. You get someone to give you feedback, give you all the positive feedback, and maybe occasionally some of the more critical feedback in a positive tone. That's what my husband does for me with my reviews. He checks to make sure that there's no like legit problems, like I only got 500 words and the rest of the book was missing, stuff like that. And then only gives me the good news, the ones who are my fans. That's a lot about what creative is. So it's just been kind of a bummer because I feel like I like discussing the show. This is the part of how I interact with media. And so just constantly seeing the queen say stuff like, you know, just because you watch a show, you're not an expert on drag. And you're correct. We're not experts on drag, but we might be experts on Drag Race. I mean, I've probably seen Drag Race more times than Tom Green has, and he's a guest judge, which was kind of confusing. Anyway, let's get down to the actual episode. So Tom Green was the guest judge. He is Canadian. He is funny. He's not really my kind of humor, but I don't have a problem with that. But it was an odd choice for a judge for Drag Race. So just going there. Didn't look like he really did anything more than just make some funny commentary, which is fine. They have Crystal there. Okay. I mean, I like Crystal well enough. Okay. They had him get into quick drag to do a thing, and then they said Lemon won. I'm not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Lemon won, but I also didn't quite see it. I don't think I'm as enchanted with Lemon at the beginning of this episode as some people are. But I got a little defensive at the end, but we'll get there. So she gets to make the team. She goes with Priyanka. She sets Rita Baga, Boa, and Jimbo together, and then Alona and Scarlett Bobo, and they're the sissies. And this is a case where my first assumption was sissy meant like the derogatory term to mean to be a wimp, which I'm not totally familiar. If that is the case, I'm not totally familiar with how that's used culturally, because I'm an older woman. Then I thought maybe they meant sissies like sisters, like the way that we refer to my husband's sister as sissy. Or, well, when I say we, I mean my mother-in-law refers to her with the baby. Anyway, so I was like, oh, maybe it's short for sisters because they're both from the same town. They're sissies, they're sisters. And then I was like, I have no clue. I don't know what that means. And then even through their whole commercial, I didn't know. I was like, is it like when your sister is, or is it, so I might not be the best person to judge this, but I'm going to go ahead anyway. Stacey kept talking about how hilarious they were, and I was like, okay. And then I saw the commercial, and I was like, that felt 9 million years long with not a lot of jokes. I thought it was the weakest. I didn't think Bobo was the worst, but I did not get their commercial in comparison to the other two. We heard about Boa's assault, which is a very serious issue. I think that there's a sense of, and this happens in a lot of closed communities, which is the protection of the community means that you are discouraged from calling out bad things within the community because it can paint, because then opponents of the community can use that to paint the whole community. So you see that a lot of times. It is very unhealthy. I'm not defending it by any means. I'm just saying that this is what happens, and people confuse protecting their community and then they don't want to call out predators. And so I think talking about the fact that there are still predators and abusive people within a community is a natural step for a community to get healthier. And it sounds like it was a terrible situation. It was a sexual assault. It was awful. I appreciate Boa's sharing it. Unfortunately, it was very clear that you go, oh, someone shares a deep, dark secret about themselves. They're going home. So that was kind of a little bit of a predate. That happens in every, that happens on so many shows. My husband will all, if we're watching a show together and someone's like, yeah, so I was homeless when I was 15. We're like, uh-oh, they're going home. You know, oh, my mother kicked me out of the house. Uh-oh, they're going home. You know, like this is how these are knit together, these stories. Anyway, for me, so then they all come out. It's denim on denim, or I guess they call it Canadian tuxedo. Denim on denim looks. I thought so this is where I kind of feel like I might, based on how awful I heard the judging was going to be, I was expecting some tomfoolery, some ridiculous, this is so incredibly terrible. In general, for Drag Race Canada, maybe I'm getting used to their judging because I was like, oh, that's actually not too bad. My biggest things were, I think Jimbo should have been top. It was weird to me that it seems like it was going back and forth on, like, 1 second it was all about the runway and then 1 second it was all about the challenge. And it was, to me, it was a little confusing about, like, are they even? Is it a maxi challenge and then the runway can just tip you one way or the other? If so, then why last week with the match game was it all about the match game and then the runway? So it feels like they don't really clearly have a set rule on, like, the maxi challenge is 75%, the runway is 25, or is it 50-50, or is it just that bombing either one will put you in the bottom? Like, what is the criteria? So that's one problem. Secondly, and this is true of normal Drag Race, which is, does the preparation for the commercial count? So, like, Stacey was like, oh, I thought Bobo and Alona were hilarious. Okay, well, I didn't think their finished commercial was nearly as funny as the other two. I thought Priyanka and Lemons was the one that was the most clear as to what was going on. And the funniest, I thought second, was Jimbo, Rita Baga, and Boa. Did I say that right? Am I doing this right? Yes. I thought theirs was the second funniest, but I think Boa by far. So it was kind of like the judging was all over the place, but the final decisions I still kind of had a problem with. But it was kind of like how we got there that was a little confusing. So they didn't like Lemon's outfit, but Lemon was one of the funniest ones. They had one of the best commercials, so I didn't get. And I think what I would prefer that they did, and I understand why they don't, but what I prefer they did is that they made everybody pick who they would write down on a chalkboard or pick or something, because I think what happens is whoever the first person says, everybody else feels like, oh, I can just tag on to this because because then it's not me being the only person who's now picking a fight with a new person. So I feel like when, I think it was Bobo said it first, that they put Lemon in the bottom. I feel like everybody jumped on that. So then Alona, Boa, and Jimbo all said Lemon because the outfit. And I would be curious to see if any of them would have changed, other than Bobo, because I said it first, would have changed their vote if they had gone first. Does that make sense? Does you see what I'm saying? I get why they don't, because having them all, they all need to hear the runway, and I feel like some of that also might have been because their outfit was the worst, but the commercial was one of the best. So I didn't get it, and then there was this whole like, Lemon, you've been standoff since the beginning, and I was like, she has? Did I miss that? And then, you know, then there was like the whole, like, you're everything I wish I was. I'm like, well, that's just jealousy? Like, what is going on? I've not been as crazy about Lemon as a lot of the fans have, but I also don't have a problem with her. So for me, that was very much like, what do you mean Lemon's in the bottom? Like, what should go next? She did the best in the commercial, and yeah, her outfit's not the best, but, and then Rita Baga, Priyanka, and Lemon all said Alona, who, that's more of what I would say, her or Boa. I guess Boa's won, so that, from that point, makes weird. And I think we saw in, Boa's boobs in one of the first challenges really bothered me, and I think I understand why it did, which is when she wore the same breastplate for the mini challenge, the breastplate's too small for her body. So what I mean is the boobs are like very tubular and start too high for her torso and too in for her rib cage. And so they just, basically just doesn't fit. So that makes a lot more sense as to what I was saying. Oh man, you can really see my tan lines. You can see why I wear a tank top. Anyway, so I kind of didn't understand where that came from. I was like, what is going on? Why Lemon? I'm not, and then they're like, oh, well, you did the same character that you did in, and I was like, if it works, one, I don't know. I felt like this is the part of the judging that I found a little confusing, which is like Bianca and Bob did a lot of the same thing and it worked. And if you do it well, so I don't think that necessarily, oh, you're paying the same thing. I would, you know, there was a lot, the discussion about padding and cinching and kind of body modification is very haphazard, and then I feel like it's sometimes said, I agree that I thought Lemon, if cinched in her waist, would be so much better. But she did great at the Maxi Challenge, so I'm kind of like, why are we discussing this? And then they loved, this is the big thing, they loved Rita's Baga's look, and to me it didn't look like jean. It looked like a blue velvet. It didn't look denim to me. Now, that could be the difference between the TV and in person. Maybe in person it was so clearly denim, but to me it wasn't. And so for me, I don't have a problem with Rita Baga being at the top, but I would not have picked her to win versus Jimbo, who has a huge performance. And then, of course, there was a thing about, like, welcome to the competition, Jimbo. And everybody else is like, I've been watching Jimbo since the beginning. This is not just because Jimbo does the kind of drag that's interesting to me, but has made interesting choices every step of the way, to me. Her Joan Rivers, which I accidentally called Joan Crawford last week. I apologize for that. One of the commenters pointed it out. I know who Joan Rivers is. Joan Rivers was amazing, just so creative. There's a huge, we see just a huge variety of outfits. I thought, you know, so being like, Jimbo, welcome to the competition, I was like, how did you guys not notice? And this outfit, this lead Bowery sort of look, has been used in all the promos. It's clearly a really strong look. So, and I feel bad because I keep going, why does Rita Baga win? But I like Rita Baga. Rita Baga is actually, if I was to pick my three that I think are strongest, I think Priyanka, I go back and forth. I really like Scarlett Bobo, but doesn't seem to be pulling it off. I don't think Scarlett Bobo is going to be able to quite make it into the top three. But we'll see. There's still several weeks left. But for me, Jimbo and Rita Baga are two that I definitely want to see there, that I think have kind of earned it. Anyway, so then there was the whole thing where it seemed like Alona and Boa don't like Lemon. And I was like, okay, I miss that? How did I miss that? Is that like the Canadians are so polite that the Americans can't even tell that they've been throwing shade? So lemon is safe, Rutabaga wins. I would have put Jimbo in the top, but I would have put Rutabaga pretty high. I would have put Boa. I don't know why. So this is the thing. I'm totally fine with the bottom two being Boa and Alana. I think Alona. I think that's appropriate. But I don't get why Lemon was even there as a bottom. I probably would put Scarlet Bobo, not because it was so terrible. I liked her outfit a lot, but I felt like their commercial was worse. I don't get why. Yeah, I feel like it was kind of one of those things where, okay, everybody said Lemon, so let's put her in the bottom and give her a good scare. That's really what I think happened. They did a thing. Alona stays, Boa goes home. There you go. I guess overall, I'm kind of okay with the judging. So, I'm sorry, it was a long, flustery recap. How are you feeling? Who's your top three? Who do you want to see? Who do you think's next to go? I kind of feel alone for me. I don't think Scarlett is really pulling off. I really like Scarlett. I really wish she was. For me, Priyanka, I really like, but I feel like some of the makeup skills aren't quite there yet. Some of the design skills aren't quite there yet. The judging has been a little bit inconsistent, to put it lightly. So anyway, hit me up in the comments. Have a good weekend. Stay safe and healthy. Bye.